I am King Uluki of the Raven Tribe of the southeast portions of Australia, Victoria to be precise. My people, my grandfather's people, live in a certain tribal region where we kept many secret stories. And right across this continent, many different original tribes have all different dreaming stories to do with their conscious creation. And many of these tribes have animal dreaming stories, like some tribe would be crocodile dreaming, or some will be kangaroo dreaming and emu dreaming. But my grandfather's bloodline, our dreaming story is the dreaming itself, is the actual dreaming consciousness and the creation consciousness, which was kept within the stories of our bloodline. And that was disconnected around 150 years ago. But spirit has a way of reconnecting, rejoining, and reconstituting what was lost, because nothing is ever lost. Just like life, there is no death, only transformation and transitions. So my grandfather's bloodline, we come from a tribe called Waa Wurrung. Waa Wurrung means raven people. The raven in our history represents the divine feminine in nature. And the eagle represents the masculine, divine masculine in nature. But both of those are not representing of us, the human consciousness. And the term humanity actually originally stood for all life on Earth. Meaning humanity actually stood for the mammals, the horses, cows, kangaroo, whales, dolphins, and it also stood for all the fish, all the birds, all the insects, all of those creatures and beings were all under one banner, which is humanity. There are people who do know, and there are beings on the earth that are far more superior in their presence than people would like to admit. In the spirit world, there is a hierarchy, and therefore there is a hierarchy on the earth as well. There's a certain obelisk on the earth that needs to be destroyed, and that will assist us in the reunification of the oneness, the ending of duality, which was not real in the first place. Like we know we have a biological need and response for who and what we are, but that is just these things are just vessels and vehicles for us to have this experience on Earth. And when it comes to timelines are very funny, because I know that we've been steered away from the original timeline using technology and consciousness. No matter how hard these entities try to steer us away from this mass awakening, the universe finds its own level, much like time. Water is time, and time is like water. Time is not linear and it's not circular. It's more like a massive ocean or sea that is all one, like one extended moment, but still so far away from each other, but it's still one body, one presence, one being. Time is like a being itself. And we are just a fractal of that greater consciousness. We're just a fractal of the earth. Yeah? We have the same amount of water and the same amount of mass as the earth does. To a degree. There's some weird science and weird ratios going on there, but People say nothing's perfect or nobody's perfect, but that too was wrong. I tell people, how could a newborn baby be imperfect? That's not right. All new life is perfect. It's just this world has a way of making us or causing us to be imperfect through conditioning and consciousness or vibrational training or indoctrination. And our wish is to change that. Well, it's not new what's happening. It's happened before, just that it's been forgotten about. We've been through all this before in the spirit world and previous to this cycle on the earth. One of my beautiful teachers, I've had the best teachers too. I can't, no knowledge is truly mine. It comes from a set of teachers who have taught me how to create and gain my own access to greater awareness and knowledge. And his name is Wallace Black Elk. And I say is, even though a lot of people say was because he's passed, but there's no death. So therefore he is still Wallace Black Elk to me, not was. And I still feel his presence, therefore he still is, not was. The spirit world is alive and well amongst us, walking everywhere. The spirit's everywhere in every corner of the earth. For they have been risen to bear witness to our transition and ascension and assist where they can and where we accept them. Like things have been not always, light for me. Even as a child, I saw dark things that children shouldn't see or bear witness to. And that was heartbreaking, but we can't let the actions of previous generations, we forgive those people for their transgressions against humans, especially children, because they got their own judgment coming anyway. So yeah, forgiveness is one of the key aspects, how the mother has forgiven us. And it's not the first time too. She's forgiven us and fought for us before and actually sacrificed her time here to do so. There was a time previous to this event where a celestial angelic body was coming to retrieve the spirit of the earth to take her away because of what was occurring on the earth. And she refused to leave. She wasn't going to abandon her children, so she stayed and put up with us. So now it's our time now to stay and assist her in her transition, because she's helping us and we can help her. And come the 21st, because at the moment she's singing outwards to the universe. She is a celestial queen, and she is responding and singing to her celestial king. Now that's another event that will be caused by and activated by the event on the 21st of December. The event will be to call in the father of the 7 spirits of creation and to ask for assistance from him. So that will also be occurring, because we can't have a mother without the father. We can't have a child has both mother and fathers. It's universal nature. So I know a lot of people swing one way or the other, that they either practice religion and everything's the father, or they practice a more natural process and everything's the mother. But yet they're divided. They both are unwhole. Both are without balance. Only when the two come together will peace be found and the balance be corrected on the earth. So there is a celestial heavenly father, and yes, there is a celestial mother who is a queen. And our souls are attached to both, not to just one. And it also, and with the rainbow philosophies, everyone belongs to the rainbow. Every tree, every river, every section of ocean, every parcel of land, every insect, and every mammal, bird, fish. But in certain areas and in certain times, there are either humans or animals that are born with the whole spectrum inside them. Now, I know people perceive the chakra body to be a whole spectrum, and it is to a degree, but there's also a sub-level that spectrum belongs to. And it was explained to me by a tribal lady from a tribe called Western Aranta, which is west of Alice Springs, which is out towards Uluru, where the event on the 21st of December will be held and activated from. That all living creatures all exist on a spiritual pyramid. And from above, it's square, just like the pyramids of Egypt or any other pyramid of the earth. And at the base is red. There's orange, yellow, green going up to violet. And the capstone is the spectrum repeated on top. But when you look down, it's got the four corners like any other pyramid. But below the capstone is two opposing sides that are positive and two opposing sides that are negative. And the knowledge that she gave me, this old lady, was new to her and her people. And this comes from the tribe, which is the most secretive tribe on planet Earth. Yet this knowledge was new to them, and she couldn't understand it, but she was told that the seven spirits of creation told her that when she spoke it to me, it was only for me to hear and my ears only. So when she spoke of this spiritual pyramid, all living creatures of the universe exist within the spiritual pyramid. Some will live on the positive blue or negative blue. Not that a negative blue is a bad or negative thing, it's just universal nature. Because we all have the negative and positive aspect, as well as the neutral or the 0 point, which is normally the heart chakra is a 0 point. Doesn't have a negative or positive flow. It is your center balance point of your spiritual existence here. Now, she said every now and then there are beings born who are born to the capstone of society, which means that they have the capacity to vibrate across all of the spectrum, both in negative and positive aspects. So we understood that there's 49 dreaming dimensions, which means that each serpent of creation has 7 dreaming dimensions that coexist with those who come out of their spiritual body. And so forth and so forth. 7 sevens are 49. So, and 4 and 9 is 13. What a number. When people talk about the indigo children, there's also the red children and the purple children and the green children, not just indigo children. The indigo children are just those who have a heightened aspect to the third eye or the inner eye. And then there's green children, with people who have a much stronger heart presence than those around them. And then there's the red people, and those people are the people who live more out of the sexual base of their realities, where that comes prominent over other things. But so we're going to, as ascension happens and people actually get their chakra bodies more clearer, then there'll be a more fuller balance between the spirit, the heart, and the base chakra. And like you said before, the communication you got, which is I was given as well, is that the Sexuality is going to be dropping off from the consciousness of man as a power base, that it won't no longer have a power over people, which is a great thing for this earth and create a much better future. So heart space, stay with your heart, make as many decisions as you can with your heart. Have no wants either. People say to me, what do you want? I said, I don't want anything. You must want something. I said, no. I have needs and requirements, but they are not wants. And they go, oh, look, it's just a word. I said, no, it's not. It's an idea that poisons your mind. So I have a need, and my need is simple. A bit of water, a bit of food, and some transport to go and get more water and food. And I guess that to keep it simple is always best as well. When we over intellectualize spiritual knowledge, it becomes misconstrued, and people who are a little bit over intellectualized are not tapping into their heart space enough. Too much training at schools and universities, and those processes are good to understand mechanics or mind mechanics, but it's not the most important aspect to us. Our hearts always were and always will be. Well, basically you're asking the purpose of life, which is great because it's very simple. Love. Love and acceptance. There is no greater power than love and acceptance on the earth. And if you look at the word earth, the H is in the wrong spot. You just need to be returned to the beginning. And then we live on planet Heart. It's just a typo. And again, it just comes down to absolute love. There is no more important aspect to our humanity than love itself. And it's not an idea, it's a reality. And it's also a principality of the spirit world. And a principality means your domain. So when you activate your heart space, that becomes your dominion. And you enter the dominion of our Creator, both earthly and celestial. And from there comes great power. And that power can come out through our words and actions and flow like an experiment I saw on YouTube once. And technology is great, even though it's been used to do dumb things. It still serves a great purpose. And great spirits, our spirits of creation, our earthly mother, actually understand technology far more than we do. Humans, for some reason, think we're at the top of the tree. Would be a great thing to record music and play music in original frequency. 440 is made to disrupt our frequencies and bring us out of tune with the world around us. So 2 tuning forks on a table I saw, and this man hit one tuning fork and it was vibrating, and he let it vibrate for about 15 seconds, and then he closed down the vibration of that tuning fork, and across the table here the other tuning fork was vibrating, but it wasn't struck, it was never touched. It was vibrating, picking up the tune from the other one that was struck. So the more power we have in our hearts, that's the great tuning fork. So we'll vibrate that out, and people around us will start to feel that tuning and tune up with it. And some people may react and run away, which is okay. They're not ready to raise up their frequency just yet. But other people will gravitate towards you, will resonate towards you, because the vibrations now are in harmony. And like I said, some people have that capacity to harmonize with all the major frequencies of humans or humanity. both animal and Homo sapien. I don't like saying the word man or humankind. Just beings of light, I guess, as we're meant to be. And so constantly we can keep our spirits steady and strong and heartfelt, and people will feel it. People will connect with you. And once there's an opening there, then verbal communication can occur in teachings and lessons. And so we live in a world now that's shifting and changing like it hasn't done for a long time. The item that I have been placed within inside my spiritual presence that ties me into this world is a sphere that has a light inside it that used to be a little red amber, and that amber expanded and powered up after the 2012 solar eclipse, which people thought was going to end the world and end consciousness. But it was only just to activate certain items on the earth to get ready for this future transition and ascension. So probably, again, the main power is just heartfelt knowledge, stayed in the heart, protecting and serving the innocence around you. If someone else isn't doing their job, judge them for it and take over their job. If they're not protecting their children, then they shouldn't be having their children. If they can't protect and serve the environment around them, then they shouldn't be in that environment. And it's people found that a little bit too primal or divisive. But I don't know, it is what it is. You know? We do come from a primal creation, and love is its power, but also we have to judge and punish people for their actions around us. So, and that's part of creating balance too. We must interject and intercept dark actions around us so we can keep correcting the balance of humanity and stop trauma being passed from one traumatized human to another. And this, as bad things happen to people, then they grow up and they do them bad things to other people. And say, look, it happened to me, and that's a bit of a cop-out. No, that's just not good enough. We can rise above our own inadequacies on the earth. And we will, and we should, and we can. And again, the answers are deep within. The universe is within. Our mother is within. Our father is within. All things are within. The whole collective consciousness of our mother lived in one body once. And her body was formed out of rainbow obsidian. Because humans couldn't inhabit our world until our prerequisites, which is the animal world, had come to understand itself as spiritual beings, not just physical beings, but spiritual beings. And here in our dreaming story, that was a female red kangaroo who was the first conscious animal that actually discovered herself by accident when she was drinking out of a pool of water, and she saw her reflection, and in the reflection she saw her physical face, but inside the reflection in her eyes she understood that there was another her that wasn't just the image she saw, but the presence she felt within. And the moment she had that conscious thought, that's when the seven spirits of our creation understood that the world and the consciousness that our mother was flowing through the animal world and the world of nature that this world was now conscious enough for us to inhabit, for us to be born onto the world. And the moment that happened, the seven spirits of creation, the seven rainbow serpents or rainbow dragons, spiritual beings, rainbow creators, it's all one the same no matter what people put on the end of it. They are rainbows nonetheless. And they sent a message out from our earth to their father. And his name is Biami. And Biami is the first given name to the creative father on earth. And that name was around even before humans inhabited the earth. And not just this time around, for the previous 3 cycles of our existence on the earth. So our father had come down to the earth from a place called Pleiades. And with his time on the earth, between him and the 7 spirits of creation, had manifested and created a woman out of rainbow obsidian to rise out of the earth and to levitate. And she was void of life. It was just rainbow obsidian with no light, no life, no anything inside her but the physical. And when they lowered her onto the earth, they lowered her onto ley-lined intersections where the moment she touched the earth again, all living life, including like we said, the rivers who have their own sovereign spirit, and the waters, the insects, the fish, the organisms, and the entities and consciousness which live deep within the earth, which I've had a lot of communication with, and that all living spirits of the earth, both fur, scaled, feathery, barked, trees rooted in the earth, was all consciousness, all donated a piece of their own spirit because they knew that this was coming. So they donated a piece of their own spiritual life and energy to go through the ley lines of the earth to that ley line central and invigorate and bring life to the rainbow obsidian mother. And she filled up with light energy and spiritual energy through the ley lines and exuberated. So her presence became the presence of the earth in one being, because she was every piece of spirit contained in one presence. Not the whole lot of their spirit, but a piece of their spirit. And between her and our great celestial father had co-created 13 children on the earth. And them 13 children were actually of crystal skeletons. And they inherited their crystal skeletal structure from their mother, who was a rainbow obsidian crystal, the mother of crystals, and had received their flesh and blood from their father, who was Biami, who was a very large, very majestic being, whose hair was made of silver and gold. And I don't mean coloured like silver and gold. It was silver and gold. And because we have all of those metallic aspects to us, we have silver, gold, platinum, all of the earth's metals exist inside us, as it does within our mother and within our father. So we are Earth is celestial again. So they co-created 13 children, and the firstborn was a male, and it happened in an alternative sequence. So the first had to be a male because the first humanoid of the earth was actually our mother. So a female was actually the first humanoid of our conscious creation on the earth, and she was our mother. And not mother because of nature, mother because she was one being that had given birth to 13 children. And that location was only about a 20-minute drive from where we are conducting this interview. and it's all been hidden from the world around us. And that site is actually protected by a dragon, a real dragon. Not a dragon in the mythology, or not a dragon in a different dimension. She's a real life living dragon who lives in this waterway now and has been imprisoned by a certain group of individuals who are using technology to imprison this majestic protector. So dragons are real, everybody. Just to let you know, just to chuck in a bit of extra knowledge here. And so the first being born on the earth, I'm not quite sure if he was born with a diamond skeleton, a diamond skull. But the moment he was born with the black pearl, the same black pearl that was placed inside me at birth. And he was also, his whole spiritual being and presence contained all the separate harmonies or symphonies of the human spiritual consciousness on the earth. And when the second was born of our mother and father, the female, she was given her allotted choir. That's what we are. We're a three-piece harmony, and we're choirs of our creation. Because it's all sound before anything else. Light and sound creates all things. Even science will support me on that one, I hope. And then the third was a male who received his portion of the universal and earthly choir, and so forth until there was 13 born. But the firstborn was the container of all them songs. And then the other 12 was given their allotment of frequency to hold that frequency on the earth until the time was ready for the humans to be physically manifested in flesh, so that they can receive that song. And there is a bit of a secret to our creation that has been hidden from me. I can speak of the spiritual creation, but the spirits of the creation said there must be some mystery left on the earth. And that mystery must remain until after ascension, and those who make it through ascension will be gifted that knowledge, if they so choose. But for now, that will be a secret, the physical creation. And it's, people just, it's not a trust issue. I don't have trust issues with humans, but I've got trust issues with ideas. So some people's ideas for humanity cannot be trusted. Therefore, they cannot be trusted, but only because of their ideas. So there must remain mysteries and secrets. Otherwise, there's no excitement in the heart and spirit anymore. So there is a great mystery which will be left aside until after we ascend. But in the meantime, for those 12, there's a cosmic octave which correlates the 7 notes of music to the 7 colours of the rainbow. But also the 7 colours of the rainbow have semicolours or semitones, much like the scale of music, with the 7 major tones and 5 semitones. And the reason our mother and father had their 5 extra children was to allow for future reference, which means that there was going to be different DNA placed upon the earth. And if these 5 semitones weren't placed there, they couldn't exist. So like with the invasion of the fallen and the advent of different celestials coming here, manipulating the DNA of man, all that was known long before it even happened. So the darkness come here thinking that they had one up on us, even though the whole time the mother and father it gave them that opportunity to come here. Because while the 13 children were sitting down and learning from our mother and father, it was in a weird, not dimension on the earth, but there was no sunlight, and there was no nature around us. It was because our mother and father was present in singularity with us. Nothing else was around. It was like a nursery. And there was a moment there where a beam of light had penetrated into the nursery, which is our earth. And an angel had come down and spoke to our father. And our father turned around and spoke to the 13 children and had said, I'm sorry, my children, but I have to return to where I come from. For my other children are misbehaving, and I must now go to punish them. But I will make you these promises. And he made a certain number of promises. And the last promise was that I will return to the earth. And then he left. And then there's this great darkness that was on the earth for a short time after that creation. And that's where the great secret to the physical creation lies. It's not for us to see. And that's for our mother and our father to know, not our business just yet. But we will know that knowledge one day. I actually got in trouble for manipulating it after the 2012 solar eclipse when it actually activated. And I got in so much trouble by our spirits of creation, I actually had my free will mostly stripped, and also my astraling abilities stripped of me, because they told me what my future role was on the earth, and I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to be thrusted into a certain limelight on humanity that was going to cause friction on any level. I would have been quite happy being a plumber or concreter or anyone. I said to her spirits, I don't want to be that. I didn't choose this. But then they said, no, you did, because you had a contract to be born on the earth, and you agreed to the contract before you came, as we all do. And so now I can only do as I'm asked and fulfill the contract. I'm not going to, my contract is with humanity, not with the spirits of creation, even though they are the enforcers of that contract. My service is to the world of humanity, meaning, all life on earth, not just the upright bipedal mammals. And I've also been informed that this item belongs to everyone on the earth, that it's not mine to wield or control or manipulate in any way. And it got to the point where they said that there really isn't a me, that I was an idea that was manifested by the world, that the world was asking for, so the world manifested me. And over the years, I've actually joked about that with people, and they said, no, you can't say that and do this. I said, hey, don't blame me, you manifested me. So, look at yourself, look at your own heart space. And reality and consciousness is multi-dimensional on all different levels, and mainly on a quantum level. Time is quantum displacement. Again, it's not linear or circular. Those are both incorrect assertions or ideas. So the item, the black pearl, it actually has a geometric light within it. And after 2012, when it activated or reactivated, and I was able to travel within again to reassociate with what was contained within, I looked at this light in this black pearl, and my ego became attached. And man is rife with ego and vanity. Even those who are of the most humble sort, ego can still come and shiv you in the back if you're not careful and take control. So we must ultimately kill our ego every morning, And don't look towards vanity. Like I tell people, when you look in the mirror, that's not you. That's not the real you. It's not even a reflective you. The only true you, the only reflection that you can really see is through the eyes of others. And that's who we truly are. So this pearl within inside me, the light had activated in 2012 after the solar eclipse. And I was able to travel within. And while I'm sitting with this very specific item, my ego became attached. And I thought, if this is inside my body, as I remember as a kid witnessing it, then I must have some form of ownership and control. And that's the modern human side coming out in me, the conditioning. That must be mine. It must be, I must own it, and all of that nonsense talk. So what I'd done was, my ego had me turn up the light inside that item, and it grew using my consciousness. But then a cloak of darkness had come over and around this item and shut down the light and shielded it from the outside world. And this is within my own reality, inside me. And then I realized that I wasn't alone. There were 7 spirits of creation had come inside me, and they had cloaked this item, and I got reprimanded for it. And one of these beings, they said to me, "No, that's too soon." I said, "Not yet." I said, "But now you've exposed this item to the darkness, and now they know about it. So now we have to bring our actions forward." And then they took me off world. And they took me to 3 different locations in, again, what is reality? It's they took me to 3 different locations. The first place was a place that I recognized as purgatory, meaning that I was placed in a very hot location that was like a summer heat, and for as far as my eyes can see was all of these demonic presences who were all crouching down on the ground, crouching but not sitting, and all facing away from me in a big arc. And none of these beings would look at me. I could hear them talking about me because I was right there behind them. But one being had the power to stand up and face me. And he looked straight at me and said, "I know who you are now, and I know where you are." And then our spirits took me away from that place. But one day I'll tell the world who that being was. So from that place, the spirits took me to another place where I found myself floating down over a new world or a new planet that had no nature, no trees, and no sunlight. And as I had come down onto this new world, a new earth, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it was a new world or new earth. All I knew was I'm somewhere. And waiting on the ground beneath me was a being that was fluid silicon crystal. You can see it was like smoky quartz. You can see into it and through it, but yet there was a little bit of mistiness and shadow in there. And inside his being was the 7 chakra points that were glowing like floating marbles inside his core. So he had the red going up to the violet at the top. And as that being received me on this place, its first communication to me was, "Save your questions to the end." And then we travelled across this landscape that was void of life, no trees, no grass, no nothing, just rocks. And then we stopped at one location, and out behind the rocks came these other crystal beings that looked just like him, only they didn't have the 7 chakra points glowing. They only had 1. So they're like tribes separate to each other, where one tribe had the the red base marble glowing in their base, and another tribe only had the green in their center, another tribe only the blue, and so forth. It was like these 7 major tribes on this new place, and they were a little bit wary and frightened of my presence there at first, and because when they would come out behind the rocky outcrops, they were very sheepish. They would walk very cautiously, and there was males and females, and there was heaps of children, but the children had no sexuality. There was no male or female in the world of children there, only in the adults. And when they were a bit wary of me, the being who had the whole 7 chakras would communicate to them. And I'm still not sure what he said to them, but when he finished talking to them, their reply was like, ah. And then they would come up and they would touch and feel. And the presence of these beings was so innocent that it's hard to put into words. The closest idea to innocence is holding a newborn baby, whether it be a human baby or a furry baby. It's all innocence and perfection in its greatest form. And that's what the adults felt like in this place. They felt that innocence and perfection. And after meeting with all these different groups on this new world, I didn't know there was a new world. I was able to ask my questions. And I did ask, the first question I asked was, where are we? What is this place? And this being said, this is the new earth. And I thought, okay. I said, where is the sunshine? Where is all the nature? The trees, the animals, the water? And this being said, all that must cease to exist on your world before it can exist here. And I thought, well, that's almost like the destruction of this world then. Or that's what I thought back then. And this was in 2012. So that sort of hurt me a little bit. I thought, oh no, our world will be destroyed. How am I going to tell people this? But again, it took a long time to understand there's no death. There's only transformation and displacement. So our mother, who that will be her new vessel, has been refusing to leave us behind here. She's not going to travel there without us, without those who desire to be there, and that she desires to be there. And then they took me to a third place after they took me from that place. Now I was placed outside of space and time. And I only got that when I was standing on a sandy bank on a milky sea. And this milky sea had all these bruises rising in the sea. But beside me was another silicon being, crystal being, that was fluid. And he was about, he or she, there's no sexualities in those in their presence or being. Must have been 6 or 7 meters tall. Now I remember looking up at this very celestial presence. And after coming from the other 2 places, I looked up and I thought, this is different. And so I looked up to this being, I said, where are we? And this big being has said, we are outside space and time. We're outside the realities that is the construct of the universe. And I said, how can there be an outside of the universe? He said, what the universe is made up of many, many dimensions and aspects. And these aspects separate to each other, but unified in energy. But all of those places have a membrane in between, a skin. And that skin has a hollow point or a 0 point And that's where we were, in the 0 point in the membrane between different dimensions. And I said, okay. I said, what is this liquid? And this being who was so tall, and I'll describe them for you, that crystalline structure was much like fine china, like milky quartz, but fluid. But the torso was all blacked out, and you could look within. And the face was all blacked out, and you can look within. So the open space of the torso and the face, when I looked within, there was only galaxies and stars inside the presence of this being. And I thought that was quite amazing. It still is. I'm still in awe of that kind of imagery that I was shown. But I went back to the sea. I said, what is the liquid? And this big being said, that is the sea of time. I said, what is the markings? What is the bruises that we see there in the liquid? It said that was the negative impact of man on the universe around us. So it's not just about this reality in this world. We have an impact across all dimensions, across the universe. Because we are a very special place, and we need to accept that this place is far more powerful and a far more universal presence in the universe than we could ever imagine. Our mother is a very, very important queen in the whole universe. And that's why we are so important to the universe as beings as well. We have altruism, which some of the beings out there have lost and forgotten about. And we have love, which a lot of things and beings out there have lost and forgotten about. So much like how I tell people about when the Crown invaded here or colonised here, I said that was just the children coming home because they lost their love, and they needed to be reminded of love and acceptance and honour. And it's much the same how the fallen had come in here, that they needed to be coming here so they can be reminded of love, acceptance and honour in their being, in their presence. So that event, and since then it's been a ongoing communications with these 7 spirits of creation who have told me certain things, and some things I'm probably not ready to tell the world just yet. But next week, maybe. I don't know of time anymore. I just do as I'm asked. But after the event, when I come back from that interdimensional travel, about a week later, the same 7 beings had gathered around me in my bed. And I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but then they started to speak to me about my journey, my contract, and my role on the earth. And that's when I started to argue, because I am a very stubborn person, very stubborn human, or a very stubborn spirit. So much so I didn't believe anything when I was a child, because I simply didn't believe that the words that people were telling me had any fact of truth involved. So I didn't believe anyone. I didn't believe any adults. I didn't believe people around me. I just was a spiritual stubbornness, which turns out is a great trait to have, because I didn't believe anyone's lie. I couldn't be coaxed into believing that life was just this and life was just that. So I tell people, don't believe the lies of those who already have been lied to, and accept the lie. I don't accept lies, nor should anyone else. And that's where judgment comes into our world. So when our 7 spirits of creation were explaining to me what my job was, I actually denounced it. And I said, no. I said, I can't do that. That's not me. You got the wrong person. And they said, no. I said, well, I don't want it. I said, you're going to have to get someone else. They said, no. They said, you got the job because you didn't want it. So that's was one of the teachings for me about want and necessity. Also, they said it was too late. There was too much time invested in what was taught to me, and in my presence on the earth. That there was no going back in time. This cannot be undone. It is what it is now. And they said, you will do as we ask you, and you'll do as what we tell you to do. Again, my stubbornness said, really? So I argued with the seven spirits of creation, and if anyone has that kind of thing going on, don't argue, because we're not going to win. They are so powerful, so energetic, that it's their will, not ours. And then their will is a combination of the will of our mother and father combined, not just one or the other. It's a union, and it's a celestial union that the churches will be informed of soon, and all the naturalist New Age people shall be informed of soon. That there's no mother, no queen without the king and the father, and there's no father, no king without the queen and the mother. We wouldn't be without both. There is not one. And so when I argued and I said I didn't want the job, that I was already deemed crazy, and if I start telling people this kind of information, they will lock me up. So I said no. They said it's not your choice to make. And I argued. I said, really? And I knew about an ancient process that was taught to me, whether it was in this world or a previous world, that you can use your free will to return to your spiritual beginnings, whether that be Pleiades, Orion, wherever today's spirit may come from in the universe. You can return there upon free will if you knew the process and the magic words to say so. So I said my goodbyes to my family, my children and my loved ones in the middle of the night, and I was about to utilize that process to return to my beginnings. And I didn't get very far out of my vessel. Probably got about that far before I was grabbed by these seven spirits of creation and forced back into my body. And the being at the end of my bed had strings of light between their palms, and they tied my spirit into my vessel. And it's not that I felt violated, I just felt that I knew that free will wasn't an open and freely given concept then. If my free will can be extracted to a degree, then so can all others. So I've been bound into my body since 2012. And they told me that there were certain things I would have to say and do in the future that would cause chaos on the world. But when they tell me certain things to say and do, I just now do it. I'm not going to no longer argue against these great beings who are getting ready this world for a greater purpose. We have a greater purpose. Our mother has a greater purpose. Our father has a greater purpose. And that purpose is about to become more prevalent on our earth. Many people have been born and born and born again in cycles on this earth, so they can remain here until this time. A lot of people just need to remember who and what they are. And don't believe too much of what people get from books or programs on TV or even on the internet, but to rather use their heart to hear that knowledge and information so that their heart can filter it, not their mind. Because the mind is just a bit of a hard drive and capture it. We need filters, and our heart is the greatest filter against hatred and lies and deception, because our hearts would never lead us astray. but the mind does every day almost. Remember, when we wake up, our mind is going, how do we overrule the heart today? But we let the heart rule. The heart is the ruler of the kingdom within.